Hi, my name is Jeff Pagano, and welcome to the Harpin On Rugby podcast. Joining me this week is someone back for cap number 46. He's also runs his own blog, Post to Post Sport. Welcome back to Mr. Kieran Duffy.
Yeah, glad to be back on. You can probably hear Bruce, my dog, giving out in the background. He's the assistant at Post to Post Sport. Always willing to give his input on some rugby. So, yeah, nice. I'm approaching 50 here, so we'll hopefully get to 50 by maybe over the Nations Championship or by the end of the season even.
And Bruce obviously wants you to get to 50 as well. But let's turn our attention now to our feature match of the week. Here's a generic 80-word summary of how things went. Leinster overcame a roller coaster first hour to beat Edinburgh and reach the Champions Cup quarterfinals. Two early tries from Tommy O'Brien set the tone, but Edinburgh's interceptions and counterattacks kept the game tight, with Leinster leading just 28-26 at half-time. After Edinburgh briefly went ahead, Leinster's power told. Josh van der Fleer, Thomas Clarkson and Reiko Iwane crossed in decisive second-half surge. Byrne was perfect from the tee, sealing a high-tempo 49-31 Easter Sunday win. Now, obviously, we'll go into a bit more detail than that, and there really is only one place to start, and that's that roller coaster I was talking about from the first hour. I mean, like we say, after taking the early lead thanks to those two Tommy O'Brien tries, both tries of which Leinster made look pretty easy, things began to go in a very different direction, Kieran.
Yeah, and I was thinking when those first tries were scored and it was 14-0 that, the game's nearly over, and I think Edinburgh would have been forgiven for putting their heads down, but credit to them, they didn't. First try really well worked, and I was impressed at the second try. We kept the pressure on, and oftentimes this season we've seen Leinster do something good, score an early try, and then kind of lose control of the game and almost not know how to respond to that or not take the initiative after that. And credit to Harry Byrne for converting both. I thought those opening kind of 10 minutes we were great, and it looked like really those opening 20 minutes we were largely in control for. But then suddenly, it was the first of three intercept tries on just before the 15th minute. Tyke Furlong forced a pass, in fairness, and I think that's the frustrating thing, that the intercepts weren't really necessarily fantastic reads from the Edinburgh attack or anything. They were just kind of us overplaying and us forcing things. So Tyke Furlong, in fairness, he kind of flung the ball at Osborne. It went loose, and in fairness, Edinburgh, easy enough. Conversion was missed, and in fairness, I think it was a conversion they should have been getting, and they missed an easy enough one that would have given them a losing bonus point at the Aviva in the URC game earlier. But you're thinking, right now, 14-5 down, we need to hit back here. We need to just hang on to the ball and not let Edinburgh kind of work their way back into this. But we did let Edinburgh work their way back into this. There was a knock on by Reiko Iwane. I know we're going to talk about him later. He did actually have a good game, but there were just a few Leinster mistakes creeping in after a really good 10-minute period, and that's basically how Edinburgh managed to get back into the game. And then once again, Edinburgh had a scrum on about the 20th minute. Leinster put pressure on the scrum, but Edinburgh got away. And credit to Ross Thompson, he had a fantastic game. I think really he was probably Edinburgh's best player for long periods. In fairness, Jamison Gibson Park kind of falls off a tackle in the build-up, but Ross Thompson manages to make his way to the line. Soft defending, but good attack at the same time. And the conversion was very impressive. The ball fell off the tee. I think there was about 10 seconds to go at that stage, and he manages to get the ball back on the tee and take the conversion. This is all from a tight angle and manages to convert it. So as good as Harry Byrne's conversions were, I think in fairness, Thompson deserves credit for that one. But from there, it was kind of like 20 minutes. Leinster start really well, let Edinburgh back in, and from there, it was just hard to know what was going to happen next. It was nearly just trading scores for the end of the half. Eventually it finished 28-26 in the first half, and in fairness, it was that missed conversion by Edinburgh that was the only reason they didn't go in level. I think Leinster played well for the third try, showed good hands, really good pass by Gibson Park to Ross Byrne. This is after a line-out maul, which was making its way forward. Dan Sheehan does well to break off and make a few meters. Gibson Park finds Byrne, who plays in Jimmy O'Brien really well. Again, another difficult conversion. I think those conversions were key. Obviously, Obviously, Leinster won by, I think, 18 points or something in the end, I think it was. But I think those conversions were crucial just to keep us ahead in the game because it was close for a long time. And you're thinking, right now, here's the time for Leinster to pull away before half time. Again, it didn't happen. Leinster had the ball in their own half and another poor pass easily intercepted. Jamie Osborne at fault that time. Ross Campbell again intercepts easily, goes through under the post, straightforward conversion. Suddenly it's 21-19. You're thinking Leinster have played most of the rugby here, so I don't know how Leinster have gotten Edinburgh rather have gotten 3 tries, but to their credit, they've taken their chances. And there's 2 more tries before the end of the half. Yet another intercept for Edinburgh. So it finishes 28-26. I think our third try, I'm just looking at it here. I think Hugo Keenan does well to get over. I think the difference between that and some of our play was Leinster were getting quick ruck ball. In fairness to Edinburgh, they were defending well, but we were making ourselves hard to defend against. I think that's something we haven't done at times. So we did play good rugby in that first half, and then the fourth Edinburgh try, which is crazy to say. We conceded a 4th try with Edinburgh doing very little attack. It was another intercept. Goes in 28-26, but in fairness, I think we were playing well at times. We were just overplaying it in attack, forcing passes. We could have had another 2 or 3 tries really in that first half, but we were just completely forcing things. Poor handling as well. One thing we've said this season is a lot of the pain has been self-inflicted and they're very fixable problems, but the problem is we haven't fixed them. We haven't fixed them at all. And then the second half, early on, again, Leinster have a good passage to play, try disallowed. We were probably on top, and then in the 52nd minute, Edinburgh's most well-worked try of the game of their 5 tries, Darcy Graham chipped through, and they had advantage, so it was a good decision. Conversion hits the post. At that stage, it's 28-31. You're thinking, we're in a bit of a game here. We're 3 points down. It's half an hour to go, and we were falling off, but then from there we managed to pull away. We'll talk about some of the standout players in a bit, but in fairness, I think Edinburgh were good value for being very much in the game and good value for their lead, just in the case that we were a lot of the pain Leinster were inflicting on ourselves. Well, it was self-inflicted pain. It wasn't necessarily Edinburgh doing things well, but in fairness to Edinburgh, they took their chances. A lot of teams, they come to Leinster away, and in the past we've seen them put the head down or maybe not really be up for the game. But in fairness, Edinburgh are very up for this, and considering all the talk beforehand was how many points are Leinster going to score, Edinburgh were leading with, I think, 50 until the 54th minute, I think, or something like that. And eventually Leinster did go back ahead a couple of minutes later from a 5-metre line out. And I think that was crucial to hit straight back. And from there it was 35-31, and we know Leinster went on to win the game.
Yeah, we were saying in our preview how this was the first knockout game of the season, and things haven't gone great for Leinster so far this season. There's been a few defeats, but even a lot of the wins, there have been some dodgy periods in the games and whatever. But what we were used to in previous seasons, even seasons when we've won every week, you can still notice a raise in the level of the performance, and when it gets to the Champions Cup and then the knockout stages, they seem to need to know how to raise their game. It's almost like they're putting on a different jersey. It helps them raise their level and get to that. So we wanted to see that in our performance, and literally from the kickoff, we did see that. And this it's kind of a new kind of attacking style that we've been trying out at times this season, where the players, the players, they spread out more, they sit a bit deeper. There's a rhythm to the passes. The first pass goes, second pass goes, the third pass goes, the back door. All this kind of style that we're trying to ingrain, and it's got to be, like you say, it's quick ball from the forwards. Sometimes there's a missed pass straight to the winger, and the space has been created. That's why we're scoring tries in the corner a lot now. Like last week, we got 2 tries each from our wingers. This time, our wingers were scoring in the corners as well. Thankfully, Harry was nailing those touchline conversions as well. But it's the problem is like you say, it did get a bit readable And when we got those 2 quick tries in the first half, we were still trying to do it. And see, we want to get into a rhythm of this kind of style and this kind of play. But when it gets to when you're cup rugby and you're up by 14 points, especially early on, there's still a long way to go. There's still a way back, and we've had 14 plus leads early in the Aviva Stadium before, and we know what happened there. But we weren't. We persevered with that kind of style, and it does run a risk. In Edinburgh, and they nothing else to do but to take a few gambles, and you can sort of read the rhythm of the passing, and you can be there for them, and that's what happened. Once, twice, 3 times, they just would literally poach the ball. They'd see the pass before it came, and take it, and they're under the post, and that's just 7 easy points. It was frustrating, as fool me once, shame on you kind of thing. But for especially the third one at the very end of the half, after we, each time we caught our way back ahead, the lead was 9, then it was 2, then it was 9, then it was 2. It was really really frustrating. I suppose the consolation is as you said, it's on our side of the ball. I think Leo Collins said it after the game as well. These are problems that were on Leinster's side. Edinburgh did well to capitalize on the mistakes, but they were still our mistakes, and it's a fixable situation. I think we need to know how to play. Not to go to that style each and every play. We need a game, and Harry's good at that. Harry's good at the territory game. He's good at drilling it into the 22 just for territory at times. He's good at kick passes and different things just to keep the defense honest and stuff. And I think we might have seen more of that early once we built that 14-point lead. If we can, it's good to see that we can score 7 tries against a team like Edinburgh. But we're not going to get that many against a team like Bordeaux in the later rounds if we do get that far. So we're going to need something else to try to consolidate the lead. And if we get a 2-3 score lead, just bring it to halftime, control the game, manage the game better. But for the spectators, now for the neutrals, obviously it was amazing to see the score go up and down like that, and Edinburgh get so close and eventually take the lead at one point in the second half. But it was just mad the way it happened. And like you say, at 55 minutes, 54 minutes, Edinburgh had a 3-point lead, and then literally 10 minutes later, it was an 11-point lead to Leinster, and the game was practically over. It was mad how it happened, but I think we controlled it better after the break. We got unlucky with that Van der Fleer try that was disallowed. It was rightfully disallowed. It's a bit annoying. It took them so long to notice. They let the conversion be taken as well. Harry was unofficially 8 for 8 with his conversions because he got that one as well. But it was unlucky there, but still Edinburgh did get the try. I mean, like I say, you look at their 5 tries, 3 of them interceptions that we handed. One was defensive. Thompson, we fell off at some tackles. If people just looked at the replay of that try, they go, Leinster's defense is a shambles. But no, you're going to get one of those in every game. And if you're managing to score tries down the other end, it's not so bad. I think defensively, I think we were okay. Even though Edinburgh got 30 plus points, it was just more that we were handing them the tries more often. The try they got in the second half, the Darcy Graham try, it was a brilliant finish, but also they got a bit of luck before that. It was a deflected kick pass that ended up to him, and he just literally made the most of it. And that was a brilliant kick through and chase, and that was a superb try. But I think on the whole, there's so much on our side of the ball that it's a good concern to have. You look at last year, this exact stage last year, we're putting 50 points on Harlequins, no reply, and everyone said at the time, well, we didn't learn from that. Well, I think we learned from this. We have a new style, we have a new approach. It's working. We're able to score tries and get the finishes with them. When we needed one, we got one. It was the same against the Scarlets. Whenever we needed a try, we were able to get one. So there was a lot of positives to take from it. It's not good for the heart on Easter Sunday to see we're losing coming into the final quarter, but they were able to get it done on the pitch, so that was something anyway. Well, elsewhere in EPCR competitions this weekend, in the Challenge Cup, there were mixed fortunes for the other Irish provinces. Connacht had an impressive win over the Sharks in Galway, setting up a quarterfinal away to Montpellier next Saturday, while Munster's 21 unanswered second half points in Exeter weren't enough to rule out the home side's 31 unanswered points in the first. Ulster just about made it through to the last eight with victory over the Ospreys that relied on a controversial forward pass call against the visitors right at the death. Ulster now host La Rochelle in Belfast on Friday. Back in the Champions Cup, there were dramatic comebacks and high-scoring wins all over, with the quarterfinal lineup now featuring some heavyweight clashes like Bordeaux v Toulouse, Northampton v Bath, Glasgow v Toulon, and of course Leinster hosting Sale on Saturday evening in the Viva. And as we're recording on the evening of Easter Monday, we can also tell you that the referee at the Viva will be Pierre Brousset of France. But now we must return to the Viva on Easter Sunday, and we want to look at three Leinster performances in particular. First of all, we had Harry Byrne. We were talking about how Sam Prendergast is kind of dropped from the number one slot at both Leinster and Ireland. We think that's good for everyone involved. He needs time to regroup himself and get back. But I think in both cases, for Ireland, it's good to have Jack Crowley, and in Leinster, it's good to have Harry Byrne to be able to step in and play. And I think he did well on Sunday.
Yeah, I think it was one of the standout players for big games going forward. Harry Byrne has to be starting at 10. Charlie Tector's in there as well. He's more playing as an inside centre at the moment. I'd actually love to see a combination of Byrne playing at 10 and Tector playing at 12. I think that would work really well. But yeah, he played 69 minutes. And in fairness, I think for the almost half an hour of the second half, he played particularly well because he did what we need our fly-offs to do. He took charge of the game. He I don't know what happened in the dressing room, but I could see he put in a very mature performance. He kind of I'd say he changed the game a little bit, and obviously Edinburgh did take the lead early on in that second half. But I think Harry Byrne was a big part of why we ended up winning more comfortably in the end. He kicks very smart. He controlled the game very well. His place kicking was phenomenal. I mean, because I think of his seven official conversions he got, and the 8 other one, I think there were 3 or 4 of them from the touchline, basically. And he, if you have a place kicker who can get those difficult kicks, then, he's probably, then that's always going to help you, because that was a game, even though we won in the end by a comfortable margin, it was very tight for a long time. And those 2 points might have been the difference between when we went behind, being 3 points behind, or being 5, 7, 9 points behind. So fantastic play by Harry Byrne. And in fairness, I think he has that bit of pragmatic side to his game. I think he can do the simple things well. Something we talk about Sam Prendergast sometimes is he tries to play a little bit too much rugby at times. He tries to, do the fancy stuff a little bit too much and overplay things, and that was a problem with Leinster in general. I think at times he overplayed things, but in fairness to Byrne, I think he he's a bit like his older brother. He's good at keeping things ticking over, and I think he's more maybe capable of being the number one fly half in this Leinster team at the moment. So I'd be all for Harry Byrne starting. If we had I think he should start at 10 next week. I'd argue he should start at 10 away to Ulster. Obviously, then if we beat Sale Sharks, we're going to be balancing between an away European Cup semi-final and coming into the Champions Cup playoffs. We'll still have a few games we need to win the URC. So obviously you start managing minutes more. But I think if it's a must-win game, if it's a big game, I'd rather see Harry Byrne start at 10 at the moment, because the way he controls the game, the way he kicks for territory, and he can also play good attacking rugby. So I think he's our most complete 10 at the moment. Not sure if he'll quite be in the Ireland setup come the next Six Nations. I think probably in terms of out and out 10s, I could see Jack Crowley and Kieran Frawley staying ahead of him for Ireland. But to be honest, that might actually suit Leinster, because as much as other provincial fans complain about Leinster players getting picked so much for the Ireland setup, I think it doesn't necessarily suit Leinster to have so many players in the Ireland setup and to have to make so many changes. So I would absolutely be fine with having Harry Byrne keeping things ticking over. I think I'm fine with Harry Byrne being number one. Kieran Frawley probably playing backup for the rest of the season. Sam Prendergast, he'll need time by the end of the season. I think he's right to maybe not feature next weekend or against Ulster, just because I think he needs that bit of a break. But next season, I think we'll have a good setup with Byrne there, Sam Prendergast playing backup, and Casper Gabriel obviously is a highly rated player, and I think Charlie Tector can still do a job at 10, despite being more of a 12. But yeah, really smart, sensible performance. I think if it wasn't for a player we're going to talk about in a few minutes, I think Harry Brown probably would have been player of the match.
Yeah, I think Harry suits this system. I mean, we've spoken about how we overuse this attacking play, but I think when it is clicking, I think Harry Byrne, together with Jamison Gibson Park, with this quick ball coming through, I think Jamison gets the ball there quickly, and Harry makes the quick decision. He's able to execute. He's able to do the longer passes. He's able to do the kick passes. When it's on song, I think he suits it very well. But obviously, the conversions really helped as well. That's been a problem. We've been missing one or two conversions per match, and it was starting to get a little niggly, and some of them were easier. It's not just the touchline ones, but it was great to see him hitting them from all angles on Saturday, and I think it was a good performance. I thought he was close to being player of the match himself, but like you say, there were other good performances, and the nod eventually did go to Tommy O'Brien. Now, we did a whole bit on him last week against the Scarlets. He got another 2 tries, but he just forces his way into our conversation again.
Yeah, in fairness to Tommy O'Brien, I think he's quickly becoming one of our most crucial players. I think, yeah, if you're talking about our strongest 15, I think you're gonna have Jamison Gibson Park, you're gonna have Caelan Doris, Josh Van der Fleer, Dan Sheehan. I think Tommy O'Brien's right up there at the moment as one of our most crucial players. I'd nearly, you'd sometimes think maybe having one of your best players being a winger is sometimes not the best thing. But in fairness, he influences the game really well. I think we saw that with Ireland over the Six Nations, the way him and Balakune being a really exciting combination. I think, Tommy O'Brien and JJ Kenny is a really exciting combination. I think Jimmy O'Brien is good there as well. But, just for one thing, his pace and attack, his, I guess you'd say his dynamism in attack as well. He's an exciting player going forward. But probably something that doesn't get appreciated as much is his defence. There was one piece that did get picked up in the Ireland defeat, the Ireland win against England. He consistently found himself on the opposite wing, and to Robert Balakune's credit as well, that was something he did as well. He's just has that ability to get around the pitch, and even though you'd think a winger being out in the wing, they're not going to have as much influence on the game. He imposes himself on the game, and I think at the moment he's our answer to Louis Béal Belly. I always pronounce his name wrong, apologies. Tommy O'Brien Belly at the moment. But he's defensively very strong, and he's one of our best attacking threats. And he's quickly becoming probably the most important. Those 2 tries, I remember the second one, he still had an awful lot to do. He was a long way out from the line. Most players probably would have taken it up further, closer to the line and cut inside and recycle the ball, but he backed himself and he got to the line. To his credit, he can create attacks, and just the way he gets around the pitch and defends, I think he's nearly like having a second winger on the pitch at the moment. He's nearly like having a third winger, I should say. We do have a second winger, but I'd be really excited to see him and JJ Kenny play together a lot more, because I think Kenny has the same kind of dynamism in attack. He's obviously still fairly new to Union. Jimmy O'Brien's a kind of experienced head. Hugo Keenan's one of the best fullbacks in Europe, and Tommy O'Brien, he's kind of that. I think he has the makings of a bit of a luxury attack player, but at the same time, he does that really defensive work. So he's kind of a great all-around winger. I'd say he was a big part of us winning that game. And there's no complaints about him being the player of the match. I think Harry Byrne was great, but in fairness to O'Brien, he got those 2 key scores early on. The second one was really impressive. He had a lot to do, but it's just he's that all-around player who, for however long in the game he plays, whether it's 70 minutes to full 80 minutes, I think he just, he makes an awful lot happen. So, rightly player of the match, and I'd hope he stays fit, because to be honest, the reason I think you'd nearly still look at him as a young player because he's young in his Leinster career, but in fairness, he's not. He's 27, 28. He's very much in his prime now. And you realise what Leinster might have missed out on with his injuries. He just had that awful run of getting injured constantly. But the last kind of this season and last season, I think he's really imposed himself on this Leinster team and showed himself to be a crucial player.
Absolutely, it's his all-round abilities. I mean, like I said, we said it last week, but like you say, he keeps coming up with these performances that forces us to talk about him. And he got player of the match, and he deserved it. He got, he did just. It's not just the tries, it's the turnovers, it's the support play, it's the kick chasing. It's it's his all-round game, and he's just made himself just undroppable. Both Leinster and Ireland, I think, at this stage. So, long may he continue. He had a lot of injury problems earlier. Hopefully, he doesn't have those again because he's become a crucial aspect for both blue and green. And that's why you say he finished. He did have a lot to do, but he was helped in a long way by a really good pass on the run by Reiko. And so let's talk about him for a bit because I mean we've been talking about him negatively a lot this season. With good reason. I mean, for one thing, he's never going to be Jordy Barrett, but he's also, he's not necessarily meant to be a direct replacement, but let's just say he's fallen short of what you'd expect from another All Black coming into the Leinster lineup. And when we saw the starting team for this. I mean, this was the one that, unfortunately, this was the one name I was concerned about when I saw the starting team. I said, "Oh, you'd prefer to have Ringrose in there. You'd be more settled. Be more confident." Ringrose is such an anchor for the team, especially defensively. And in the early stages, we talked about how our attacking style clicked. Well, actually, Reiko was the first one that showed it didn't click. He threw a pass straight into touch. It just showed that the timing wasn't quite there with him. It was everywhere else, but his just wasn't. There was a knock on in another stage, like you said, but he did come back. I think if you count the dummy to himself towards the end, that really, really good try right at the end with the dummy. You could say he had 3 assists tries. He put Hugo through, he put Tommy O'Brien through, and then he put himself through with that dummy. So it was a possibly his best performance for Leinster so far.
Yeah, and I think that try that he got was kind of exactly what he was brought in for. Really, though, he was brought in to win win things. He wasn't necessarily brought in to play the kind of run of the mill URC games, or he was brought in to play big European games and big URC games. So, in fairness, I think he's a very different player to Jordy Barrett. He probably has a very different personality. I obviously don't know him, but he doesn't seem to be the same kind of leader. Jordy Barrett seemed to really buy into being at Leinster. He's the kind, he even said he'd love to come back someday. He seemed to be almost helping develop players. He seemed to be happy to play, to play kind of fairly mundane URC games that Leinster maybe won comfortably enough, but he still was very involved in. Whereas Reiko, he seems to be kind of, I mentioned Tommy O'Brien has some traits of a luxury player, but he's very much not a luxury player for the way he defends. Reiko Ayane probably is a luxury player in a way, but in fairness, this is the kind of game he was brought in for, and you could see he was switched on, because I think that's kind of a complaint, and maybe it's a bit of confirmation bias, because maybe we kind of all decided Ione isn't that invested in Leinster, and he just at times doesn't seem to be that awake. At times he doesn't seem to be switched on, and maybe that's because Leinster aren't playing particularly well. But this game, he was on it. And yeah, like I said, he did force a few things and a few passes didn't go to hand. But that last try, that was exactly the Reikoning that he was brought to Leinster for, to score that kind of try in a European Cup game. I would argue he had one of his best games for Leinster, and we should use him in these big European games. He'd be better suited to playing next week. Yeah, I don't know, is Ringrose going to be fit? I think Henshaw has to really be managed with his minutes as well. But I'd argue he should play next week. He should play, if we do get to a semi-final, he should nearly be rested for that semi-final. No point playing him against Ospreys and Lions at home. Ulster away, I think, as well. Would he really buy into the interpros, the importance of those? I think we nearly have to keep him for these big games, because I think, if it's a Champions Cup final, I think we'd see him have one of the games of his life, and we're a long way from that just yet. But if we did get there, and even the URC playoffs, so I'd argue, we use him as a big game player, whereas Jordy Barrett could be, he could miss out on starting in a European Cup semi-final for some reason, and then play against Zebre the next week and put on a masterful display. I don't think Reiko's the kind of player who's going to be switched on for, we have 2 late season games against Ospreys and Lions. I don't think he would offer particularly much against those. But no, look, he showed what he was brought in for yesterday. He is an exciting player. He's just not the same kind of player as Jordy Barrett. And in fairness, I think whatever All Black came in after Jordy Barrett was always going to be a bit of a downgrade, unless we're bringing in an Irish Sabaya or something. He probably doesn't have the same versatility as well. He's mainly a 13, can cover 12. We haven't used him on the wing, but he can play there. He just it seems like we more have to play to his strengths rather than him playing to our strengths. But credit to him, he was switched on, he was invested, and if we only play him in the Champions Cup and he wins us the Champions Cup, then no complaints. I would just wonder though, is there any purpose really in playing him? So we're away to Ulster. That is a big game. The week after the quarter final. We've some other URC games then. They're kind of more run of the mill season games. I'd wonder, is there any point in playing them outside the Champions Cup games and URC playoffs at this stage? Because they're probably not a big enough stage for him to be fully switched on. It looked like a couple of weeks ago his mind was nearly back on playing Super Rugby. But credit to him, he was switched on for this one. I think it was one of his better games, and yeah, that try was masterful. He threw a great dummy, and the way he kind of that's that bit of a spark that he was brought into play and to provide as well. And to his credit, he did that. So yeah, look, wasn't a perfect performance, but in fairness to him, he was very switched on, and he must have been listening to the podcast a couple of times because he corrected a lot of the problems we complained about over the past 2 weeks.
What do you mean he must be listening? Of course he listens to the podcast.
They all
no
do.
question. Yeah. No, seriously, that try had a real look of Super Rugby about it. I mean, it was a link up with Gibson Park. It was like they in that situation, that's a situation they're used to finding themselves a bit of space out on the wing, 2-on-1 kind of situation. It was a beautiful pass from Gibson Park. People watched that pass again. It was like it just sat perfectly for Reiko to run onto, and that put him into the space. But he still had to finish, and they just didn't even think twice about doing a little dummy and getting past and over the line. It was interesting when he switched to the wing. I think that might be. If we didn't already have so many quality wingers ahead of him, I think that would be a much better position for him on the wing. But I think at the moment he's kind of back up to Ringrose in the center. So like you say, if he gets another game into a system, maybe he'll be more clued in, and like you say, maybe possibly play for the bigger matches. Okay, so listen, we've spoken a lot about the backs. I'm just going to go quickly through some of the forwards from the game as well. I think Van der Fleer had a great match. He could have been player of the match as well. He did a lot of poaches. He does his usual link play at the lineouts. And most of the lineouts that worked, he was involved in the move. He did his usual turnovers, carries, all that kind of stuff. He got lucky the first time with the try, but he still went back and got the try anyway. Ryan Baird, great to see him back. I think he hit the ground running. When you're away for such a long injury, to come in to a big knockout game and start is a big deal, and I think he came through it well. Jack Conan had another good outing. Good to see Andrew Porter back. I was a bit concerned that he only played half the game, but then again, he's back from injury as well, so maybe they're kind of managing him a bit. We're kind of low on loose heads at the moment, so I think it was important maybe to manage him, but there was good performances there. And just finally, we'll go over to the Edinburgh side of things. We spoke a lot about them in the first section, how they did well to keep coming back, but I think we need to just sort of just reiterate that they did well to take their chances. They were unlucky on the injury front as well. They were missing the likes of Bradbury, Van der Merwe. There's a couple of possible match winners for them. And Thompson was possibly, you say, their best player. He went off injured as well at one stage. So they didn't have the best of luck. I don't think, even though they had the lead, they took their chances. I still think Leinster were easily the better team. It was more a case of us handing them the chances, and Edinburgh have had their problems this season. But I think they should feel good that they got those scores in the end anyway. Okay, well, we had our usual array of comments on our Facebook page at the Full-Time Whistle. Let's have a look at a couple of those. First, we had Tom Clark, who said, Leinster were pretty poor despite the win, disjointed and sloppy, really. Not much else to say. On the other end of the scale, we had Sandra Siri, who said, we're a second-half team, and we proved it tonight. Do you agree, or would you have said the same thing a different way? Well, if you want to get involved with the conversation, just head to our Facebook page at the Full-Time Whistle after Leinster and Ireland matches, and feel free to leave your thoughts. Okay, well, listen, we're going to leave it there for now. Many thanks to Kieran for joining us. Looking forward to have you back on again soon.
Yeah, looking forward to being on before in the business end of the season. There, we're really in the serious end of things. So, looking forward to coming on a few more times. I'm going to be a big podcast player and putting my best work now in the business end of the season.
Absolutely. We'll get you to the 50 caps before the end of the season. And as ever, stay tuned to Harpin On Rugby and all the socials during the week. There's no bonus chat this week, but we will be back to normal on Wednesday with our 80 plus column over on Substack. Please head on over there and subscribe for free if you can. In the meantime, stay safe, everyone. Slán.